I think we can go ahead and get started because I don't see anybody else trying to join right now. So just wanted to welcome everybody. We're really happy that you're here today. Today we're going to talk about Farm to School Month and highlighting Farm to School in the classroom during Farm to School Month. My name is Mackenzie Fox and I work for the Kentucky Horticulture Council, but I'm a part of the Kentucky Farm to School Network, which we'll tell you guys about in a little bit. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of Farm to School. So there are three main aspects of Farm to School. There is the local procurement, which is serving locally produced products in the cafeteria. Agriculture education, which of course is pretty straightforward, and school gardens. And all three of those pieces encourage kids to eat healthy, to support their local farmers, and teach their children where their food comes from and the importance of supporting their local farmer, which I think is something that all of us can get behind. So the Kentucky Farm to School Network is an up and coming group. We've really just kind of came together in the last few months. And we're a coalition of agencies, organizations, and advocates that are enthusiastic about farm to school programming in Kentucky. So we do various programs, including this Farm to School Month effort, where we're trying to get agents and associates of extension to go into the schools and teach kids about farm to school. Members of our network include Bluegrass Farm to Table, Community Farm Alliance, Feeding Kentucky, Food Chain, Foundation for Healthy Kentucky, Grow Appalachia, Kentucky Ag in the Classroom, K-Card, KDA and KDE, the Hort Council, and various schools and farmers from across the state. So Farm to School Month is in October of each year. And one of the reasons that we really like Farm to School Month is because it is a low barrier entry to doing farm to school. It takes place for just 1 month, and you're not asking the schools to, say, purchase tomatoes from a local farmer year round. You're just giving them an opportunity to do maybe a one-off event just to get their feet wet in farm to school. And within that, of course, you can do the three different parts of farm to school, including local procurement, ag education, and school gardens. We're challenging you all to do agricultural education in the classroom during Farm to School Month. And we hope that you will take advantage of the many resources that our partners are going to present today in order to do that. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We already have many different lessons that are already made and ready for you to use during Farm to School Month, or really during any month of the year for that matter. So to give you a little bit of a preview of what we're going to talk about today. So we're kind of doing number one right now, just talking about farm to school in general. In a minute here, Savannah's going to talk to us about engaging a school. We'll then hear about some lessons from ag in the classroom and Jennifer. Then there are some lessons that the Kentucky Department of Ag and Extension have developed together to teach about farm to school. So they'll present on those lessons. And then lastly, we will hear from Kristen at Food Chain and Fayette County Farm to School Coalition. They have some really great lessons as well that they're going to share with us. And with that, I think I'm going to hand it over to Savannah.
Hey everyone, I'm Savannah. I'm an extension associate over in the Ag Econ department on campus at UK. I know many of you are 4-H youth development agents and are familiar with some of our guidelines for extension based on work with students and younger kids. Many of you were probably at the state fair in August. So I just wanted to kind of touch base really quick on just making sure you all kind of follow the guidelines that the schools have for interactions with students, like wearing your mask and things like that. And then making sure that you all kind of facilitate the connection between the school. There are so many schools in Kentucky, and it would be a lot for us to pair people with schools. And since you all are agents in the county, many of you already have that connection anyway. And then we also want to make sure that if you aren't connected with a school yet, kind of become familiar with what that process looks like. I know in Fayette County, we have specific rules to follow when like registering to be a volunteer or like come in the classroom. So we want to just be aware of those like rules and restrictions in place for coming into a school's classroom. And then I know that COVID is kind of has the semester still up in the air a little bit. A lot of these lessons can be adapted to virtual learning, and I'm sure teachers would appreciate any kind of help in the classroom or via a Zoom lesson. So there is kind of some flexibility there for different types of ways to interact with students. So just we're excited to have you all kind of reach out and do some cool interactions.
Thanks, Savannah. And one thing that I neglected to mention that I meant to a minute ago was that we do have a web page that we put all of the resources that we're going to talk about today on. So I put it in the chat. And if you go to that web page, it'll give you links or actual like documents like PowerPoints that you can use. And so all of the things that we're going to talk about today that Jennifer is going to present on and everybody else are on that web page. So it's really easy for you to access those resources. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer. And Jennifer is from Kentucky Ag and Environment in the Classroom, and she has many, many lessons developed. But today she's going to talk about some that are specific to Farm to School Month. So take it away, Jennifer.
Not going to forget to unmute myself today. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I see a lot of familiar names on the list here, but I'm also excited because I think there's a lot of, family consumer science agents that we typically don't get to talk with on a regular basis. So thank you for coming and helping with this effort. I'm going to share my screen and talk about one of our programs that I think will align super easy with the education efforts with Farm to School Month, just because it really focuses on local in Kentucky farms. So it would be an easy way to say, we're bringing local foods into the school. Let's learn about the farmers who produce those local foods. And it would be even more wonderful to be able to, showcase some local farmers, even within the county. But these are dotted around the states, these virtual field trips. This series was originally developed about 10 years ago when I was with the Kentucky Corn Growers Association. And then when I moved to this position, they allowed me to kind of bring it with me to the Kentucky Ag and Environment in the Classroom. And then a couple of years ago, Kentucky Farm Bureau helped us and all the commodity organizations reproduce all of the virtual field trips. So now we have a few more, and the production quality is great. They're also quite a bit shorter than the original videos that we had. And I know for a fact that these align so well for primary Kentucky academic standards for career studies, specifically financial literacy. And of course, they are introduced to farming as a career as well. And then if you look at social studies standards for kindergarten, first and second grade, it also aligns perfectly with those as well. So teachers are going to be able to hit a lot of academic standards when using this program. So there are 10 different field trips. Probably the ones that may make the easiest connection for Farm to School Month would be the ones to a vegetable farm or an apple orchard. Both of these videos were shot in Shelby County. And then a couple other ones that might be good would be the wheat farm. And it is quite possible that they are eating Kentucky wheat because we have a large processor in Hopkinsville, and Kentucky wheat ends up all over the United States, in some of our favorite foods. Poultry and dairy might also be some really good ones to utilize for the Farm to School Month. The beauty of this is that if you are not able to visit a classroom and showcase this, you can share it with the teachers. We have all of the virtual field trips on our Google Drive, and we will share links with you if you request that. There are planning guides for each for using the virtual field trips. For instance, if you go to kindergarten, it tells you where to start, things that you can talk about, ways to kind of bring in some additional standards and activities in. So for kindergarten specifically, and this can be used for several grades, but I looked at all of the standards for social studies in kindergarten. And like I said, that and the financial literacy are very similar. So I developed a PowerPoint to kind of get the virtual field trip started that kind of walks them through why our communities are important, why the farms in our communities are very important, and then the different natural resources, our climate, how that all affects how Kentucky is able to provide the things that we need, specifically food. So this can be used to provide background for the educator or the teacher, so they know more. Obviously, for a kindergarten audience, you may not need all the words on the screen. You could end up taking those off and just show them the pictures, but this basically provides what the teacher would need to talk about. So, climate, water, land. We do talk about our forests and the wood resources, but then we get into why our farmland is so important, and who it is that provides the things that we need and where we can go get those. Kind of one of the connections for the standards is, what do you need to live? What's the difference between a need and a want? This can be manipulated on the screen. So if you're visiting virtually, you could do it on a Zoom call. The teacher can do this on a Zoom with her students if need be, or you can do this in the front of the room. So things can be moved around. We do have a paper version of this that could be printed out and utilized in class. I think it's fun to hear what the kids think that they need and want. And then another activity that is really fun is the linking farm to table game that would go well prior to starting the videos, and then maybe again after the virtual field trips are shown as an assessment to see if the kids remember, where the hamburger bun comes from, where their milk comes from. So this is also a Google slide that can be manipulated. But any extension agent, or if you have shared this with a teacher who would like to do something in their classroom, either can request all of the videos on a flash drive. You will get a copy of the Linking Farm to Table game, and you will get access to printed passports for all of the students. And again, I hate that my little controls at the top cover up on my window, so I can't grab them. But if we go back to that web page, so if you just hit, and it is linked on the page that Mackenzie shared with you. But if we go to the virtual field trip page, you can request the passports and access to the digital content right here. So that is free of charge for everyone that wants to do this during Farm to School Month. One more, real quick, are there any questions before I move on to the other resource in the chat. Okay. One more resource that I wanted to showcase for the school garden component is we have a school garden guide, Ready, Set, Grow. This was a partnership with Kentucky Department of Agriculture through a USDA specialty crop grant. And we also got some additional assistance from Kentucky Farm Bureau. But we basically took a lot of the guides that a lot of the other states had created and try to put a lot of helpful information together in one place for schools considering a school garden, or if they need to reinvigorate a school garden. We have found that a lot of times if they don't have outside assistance, such as a school garden coordinator or someone in extension helping them, that sometimes it can kind of fizzle out because there's not someone there at the school maintaining this garden. So we provide them a lot of information on how to go about planning. We give them the garden calendar for Kentucky, because obviously they're not in school during the peak growing season, but we try to walk them through planning that. We also give them a lot of ideas for lessons, that can be used with the garden for all the different grade levels, whether it's life science, earth science, how to connect it to social studies and history, even math. And then once they have their garden, they can find some of those lessons and activities on the website as well. So most of these were provided by Darlene Horton. She is an award-winning teacher. She's retired now. She was in Jefferson County, and she was recognized by the president back in 2005 for her work using gardens in the classroom. And one of our favorites, or one of her favorites that she developed, was this STEAM pizza garden. There's a lot of math involved. So they're planting a round garden. They're, using angles and ratios, and they plant the different components to make a pizza. And then, in late spring, come, time ready to, for school to end, they actually harvest some of those things and make actual pizzas. So it kind of comes full circle that they're able to do all of that. So here's some fun pictures of them doing that. Or it could, also be planned, kind of throughout the summer, and then they can enjoy it when they come back. So that may be for next year if that hasn't been done. All right. So, and of course, we also have many other lessons on our website. I recently kind of organized them a little better. So there's the links to the virtual field trips, Ready, Set, Grow. And then if you scroll down, we've got resources by topic. So you can click on garden and orchard crops, for instance. And then if teachers are interested in doing more with what they've seen, they can find some of those here. The life cycle are very popular pollinators, and also our sprout a soybean. So they could do things aside from soybeans if they want to use vegetable crops, but it provides, a good guide on how to do that in the classroom. All right, are there any questions? Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jennifer. And I put the link to directly request the printed documents in the chat. So if you all are interested in using Jennifer's Kentucky Farms Feed Me resources, you can click that link and request those documents. But with that, our next presentation is going to be by Jackie Walters from UK Extension, and Jackie and Tina Garland from KDA and UK Extension. They came up with some farm to school curriculum a couple years ago, and they're in the process of revamping it. So they're going to talk to us today just about that curriculum that you all could use in the classroom during Farm to School Month. So with that, Jackie, do you want to share your screen? Are you there, Jackie? All right.
Okay,
well,
when I opened, I'm
there you
here.
are.
When I opened the PowerPoint, it did something strange. So let me try again.
I also have the PowerPoint because Jan was having troubles with it on Monday. So if you want me to pull it up, I can do that too.
Okay. Let me just try this and see what happens. I want to share screen 2. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, is it what you're seeing is not in the presentation?
Right. You need to put it in the presentation mode. We can see like all of PowerPoint right now.
Yeah, and this is where it screwed up last time. So I'm almost afraid to tell you the truth. I think I might just leave it like it is because that was when you couldn't see my screen at all. It put it somewhere else. But anyway, so this is the Kentucky Farm to School curriculum. And as Mackenzie said, it was developed in partnership between UK NEP and Kentucky Department of Agriculture Farm to School program. So, all right. We decided, excuse me, we decided to start with high schoolers, partly because that was where we couldn't find a lot of farm to school materials, especially that were Kentucky specific. There are lots of things out there for elementary school, and not only did we find that there weren't as many resources for kids that age, but we felt like that's the age when kids start making their own purchasing decisions. You know, a lot of them have after school jobs and they're not home at meal times maybe because they have either activities or jobs. And so they're making decisions. They're starting to make decisions about what they're going to eat. So we wanted to develop something that would help them to, number one, start to identify where their food is coming from, and then to understand the relationship of locally produced food to improved quality and nutrition. We, of course, want to improve their nutrition status because that's what we do. We want them to understand the importance of local agricultural businesses to healthy communities. And lastly, to start to understand the skills and knowledge necessary to succeed in the farming industry, because Tina at this time was going out to a lot of schools and talking to kids, and lots of times, especially with little kids, she would start the conversation by saying, you know, well, when you think of a farmer, what does a farmer look like? And she would get all kinds of responses. Well, you know, they don't have all their teeth and they're dirty and things like that. And one day she went into a classroom and she was dressed. And if you know Tina, you know, she's always beautifully dressed and manicured and everything. And that particular day she had on a purple sweater. And she asked that question. And the kids were coming up with all of these wild, you know, descriptions. And she said, this little girl in the front row put her head down on the table and she said, I hope they don't wear purple sweaters. So she was with it if no one else was. But anyway, so the Farm to School curriculum can be downloaded in its entirety from the Farm to School website on KDA's website, but I'm assuming probably Mackenzie also put it on her website, this group's website. But basically it consists of 8 units, which target students in 9th through 12th grades, although a lot of the activities could be used with younger students if you wanted to. Each unit contains a facilitator's guide or lesson plan, handouts or activity sheets. Some include PowerPoints, and each unit also contains additional resources that you can go to if you want to expand on a particular idea or get more information. The facilitator's guide includes a unit summary, objectives, preparation suggestions, material lists, main points, and suggested activities for reinforcement and evaluation. The units contain a wide variety of activities. When we first trained on this curriculum, we heard we can't possibly do all this. And really, you're not expected to do all of this. We just tried to provide a wide variety of things for you to choose from so that you can adapt according to the size of the group, exactly which objective you're trying to address, and what you have to work with, that kind of thing. And it's really intended to be implemented in the classroom. It is aligned with the Kentucky Core Academic Standards at the time that we wrote it for that age group. And it's been piloted by agriculture science teachers. It's been used in family and consumer sciences class, and I know for sure language class additionally, because there are a lot of activities that include a little bit of research and either writing or presentation skills and that sort of thing. But it could be implemented with 4-H clubs or camps and other places. Oh, well, that's not what I meant to do. So here's just kind of how it's laid out. There's an introduction, and then you have a unit for each one of the commodity groups, which also are, the food groups, and a closing lesson that kind of wraps it all up and says, okay, now that you know all this, so what? How's it going to change what you do? So this introductory unit would be a great place if you're just doing a one-time activity. It would be a great place to find some things. It's the unit where you gather all your pre and post evaluation, or your pre-evaluation data, which is just surveys basically. If you're going to do the whole unit and you want to, or the whole curriculum, and you want to do an evaluation. But it does have a lot of good stand-alone things, and you wouldn't have to do that if you weren't, planning to do the entire curriculum and evaluate it. One of the kind of fun things that activities in there is based on the multiplier effect, that if you keep money in the community, it goes around so many times, and it actually is a series of transactions in a community in two different scenarios. One is where more food is purchased locally, especially by the big institutions like the schools and the hospital and so on. And then in another scenario where everybody is buying food, that comes from other places. And everybody actually keeps a little bank book, if you will. And at the end, when the food is sourced locally, everybody in the community, except I think for maybe one player, actually has more money in the bank than when it's purchased from external sources. So that's kind of fun. There is another activity where you ask a kid to kind of go through their day from the time that they wake up to the time they go to bed at night, and to list all of the products that they use that are from agriculture. And then you go back through and you talk about their day and show them that there are agricultural products in so many other things. Like, okay, when you got up, were you sleeping on sheets? They probably had cotton in them. Where does cotton come from? Did you put on clothes? They may have had cotton or woolen. Where does that come from? Did you put on makeup? What's in that is an agricultural product? And then even automobiles. And then you can go back and look at that and say, well, is there a chance that any of that was produced in Kentucky? So those are just two kind of fun things that I think are standalone, nice introduction to local food sources, kinds of activities. So then there's a grains lesson, which is the first one. And what you will see when you look at the objectives is that basically there are two things. One is looking at the food from a nutritional standpoint, where does it fit into my plate? Why is it good for my body to eat this and that kind of thing. And then there's one that's more about production, cultivation, processing, marketing, and what's in Kentucky, from that food group. There is a unit on fruit. In identifying local Kentucky producers, we introduce them to Market Maker. And so you'll see that kind of pop up a lot. We talk about seasonality. There's a lot about pawpaws and persimmons in that unit because those are fruits that are indigenous to Kentucky. And there's an exercise to see how processing affects nutrient content. That's kind of neat. The unit on vegetables has a PowerPoint that goes with it that helps students identify whether a vegetable, the part that we generally eat, is a root, a stem, or a leafy vegetable. Again, we talk about seasonality and how it affects marketing and distribution. There's, I think, a mapping activity in that to talk about how far a vegetable might travel to land on your plate. We talk a little bit about native foods and what settlers ate and frontier lifestyles and how coming here changed people's diets and eating habits. Let's see what's next. Okay, and then there's the dairy unit. In addition to the nutrient content, there's a little bit about research and presentation skills in that based on different dairy animals, cows and goats, and relative nutrition and types of distribution. We talk about types of cheese in there, which is kind of fun. And there's an activity for making ice cream in a bag. And that, of course, would appeal to any age group. And we suggest a dairy field trip if that could be arranged, which would be really fun. In the protein unit, again, there's a lot of activity about food systems, like locate and map meat processors in Kentucky, identify which protein foods are grown or produced in Kentucky. It explores wild game a little bit. There's a cost per serving activity, some graphing activities about relative cost and nutrition value of various sources of meat. So you get into some math there as well as presentation skills and research. The oil unit is kind of fun. There's an activity in there for making butter. Everybody likes to do that. And let's see. Then in the wrapping it up section, this is where we kind of say, okay, now first we do the post evaluation to find out, are they more aware now of sourcing their food products and where they come from? Are they eating more fruits and vegetables? Has it actually, improved their nutrient status any? But I think the most important thing is then, we kind of ask, so what? So what are you going to do now? Are you going to eat more locally? Are you going to talk to your food service director or school food manager about using local products, that sort of thing? Are you interested in becoming part of the food system? So that's it. I have put the web address down here so that you all can locate it there, or I just Google Kentucky Department of Agriculture farm to school curriculum and it pops right up. And I know that Mackenzie will make it available to you as well. Are there any questions?
Macy just asked if you guys have developed curriculum for younger grades.
We are getting ready actually this next grant year. So starting in October, we are going to work on something more for middle school aged kids. As I'd said before, it seems like there's plenty available for elementary and primary kids, but we're going to work our way down. And we also will be updating this farm to school curriculum.
Great, thank you, Jackie. So I just want to show everybody where you can find all of this. So I did mention that, and I put it in the chat, we have this, the network has this page that you can go on, and all of the resources that we are talking about today are on there. So the material that Jackie was presenting on is on the very bottom. And if you click on this link, it'll take you to the KDA Farm to School website. And just to show you all where it is on this page. So under here, where it says forms and documents, this farm to school curriculum is the PDF document that I also put in the chat. And then the ones that require PowerPoints, the PowerPoints are right here, and you can download those from this website. Like I said, I did put that in the chat too. So the actual PDF curriculum, but the PowerPoints, you'll need to go to the actual KDA website. And so next up, thank you, Jackie, for presenting on that. Next, we're going to have Kristen. Kristen Hughes is from Food Chain, and she is the chair of the Fayette County Farm to School Coalition. And they have some really great lessons, some for elementary. So Macy, that was asking about curriculum for younger grades. Kristen has some that she's going to talk about right now. So go ahead, Kristen. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen. I'm the Director of Education and Outreach here at Food Chain. We're a nonprofit located in Lexington, Kentucky. And probably 5 years ago, I think, took on kind of chairing the Fayette County Farm to School Coalition, which was created amongst people who are really interested in furthering farm to school in Fayette County. So we have both public and private schools that are a part of our coalition, representatives from the health department, from Bluegrass Farm to Table, from Child and Nutrition Services. So we have a lot of interested parties who are really trying to get more local food into the cafeterias, but also to improve the educational opportunities and to really help connect kids to where their food comes from. A big focus of ours is really on local food and being able to help kids to identify where local food is available, even within Fayette County, but also in the cafeterias, what is local, and really highlighting the farmers. So I am going to show you, I know Mackenzie just showed you on the Farm to School Month page. I'm gonna go back to that page and just show you how you can access the resources that we have created. So before my time with Fayette County Farm to School, they had received a grant to develop educational opportunities for kids. And so they geared it towards elementary and middle school and created lessons that dealt with human health benefits, economic benefits, and environmental benefits of farm to school. So if you scroll down under the elementary, there are going to be 2 PowerPoints here. And the way that you can do it is to click on the PowerPoint, and what it will do is it will download this for you. And I'm going to show you in a minute why that is really important. We have notes and kind of a guide to go through. But then so for elementary, we have the human health and economic benefits. And then for middle and high school, we have economic benefits as well as environmental impact. For the middle and high school, there are 3 different things to go with it. There is the PowerPoint itself, which will walk you through the lesson if you choose to do this with the students. Then there is the lesson plan, and this will serve as a guide and offer talking points and how to lead all of the different activities. And then there's a student worksheet. And so the student worksheet can be printed out. This can be used as an assessment for students. And it also comes with an answer key so that they can see. So we are now I'm going to show you one of the PowerPoints. So this is one of the elementary PowerPoints, and at the bottom, so when you download it, the notes might not be activated, but if you click on the notes section, this slide doesn't have it, but as you scroll down, there will be notes on how to kind of lead the lessons. It will include lots of examples, but of course, you don't have to follow this word for word. These are just suggestions to help you to understand how to use these PowerPoints. But in the ones that don't have the separate lesson plan, they do tie to the educational curriculum and the educational standards. So there will be the second slide in these PowerPoints will provide the academic expectations and the different standards that it will hit with these lessons. So if you scroll down, and you can see here in the notes, it will provide a lot of information. There is a lot of overlap, obviously, between a lot of the educational materials that have been created. But the really great thing about these PowerPoints is that you can adapt them for the county and for the school that you are in. So for example, I don't think it's in this one. I will show you in one of the other PowerPoints that, okay, in this local food, the economic one for elementary, since this was created for Fayette County, there are slides in here, and maybe it will work. So we included a slide talking about the Lexington Farmers Market. So when you download these slides, it will actually be really easy for you to then just change it out. You can click on the elements that you want to delete. You can adapt this so it better reflects maybe the farmers market that's in the county or the city where you are going to be presenting. You can delete slides that you don't think are needed, but there is a lot of information here within the notes section. And then finally, I'm going to show you the middle school and high school. So for the economic benefits, here is the student worksheet. So it has the name of the PowerPoint on here, and then it's got different questions. So this can be completed during the presentation or after the presentation once students have fully understood. And it's really great. And then there's this game that they can play, and all of that is outlined in the lesson plan, which I'll show you in a minute. And then right here, this is going to be the answer key. So this is a really easy lift, I think, for teachers as well, because the answer key is already here. So this can serve as a really great assessment to make sure that students understood. And then here in the lesson plan, so it states the targets and objectives. It connects to the academic standards. And then it even provides kind of critical vocabulary. So really focusing on literacy that is needed in order to understand these different terms and to fully understand kind of what is needed for farm to school. And then here in the lesson procedures, it will walk you through kind of what the coalition came up with as far as this is how this lesson should be led. It provides the minutes that are needed for each of these sections. So you can kind of delete some sections if you need less time. You can really pay attention to how long this will last, and it will help you with pacing, like if you choose to do this lesson. But it provides pretty much all of the talking points and how to walk through that presentation. And then one final thing, we in Fayette County, we've done a lot of work in farm to school, and especially on local procurement. We've done a few kind of cafeteria takeovers where we've changed the menu in order to provide more local food and procure locally. And one of the things that we have done or provided to teachers for the past few years and this is also available on the Kentucky Horticulture website, is an activity, an easy activity for teachers. And this is especially great for kind of elementary. It can be a warm-up activity, especially during during Farm to School month. And it's writing thank you letters to farmers. So this was done specifically for one of the local lunch events that we did. And these were all of the farms and all of the local items that were provided. So this was a PowerPoint that teachers just had up in the classroom as students were coming in the morning. They had note cards there so students could write notes to the farmers, and then somebody at the school would collect them and then send them off. So it's pretty easy to look up addresses for a lot of these local places. I know I've seen like social media posts from the Kentucky Blueberry Growers Association of cards that they have received. So it's just a really great way, especially during Farm to School month, to acknowledge all of the hard work that farmers do within the state of Kentucky, to provide that local connection, focus on seasonality, get kids thinking just even more about where their food comes from. And so that is all that I have.
Thanks, Kristen. And so I'm going to wrap us up. I'm going to show you guys again where you can find all of these resources, just to reiterate it. So the link is in the chat, but basically it's a huge list of all the resources that we talked about today. So either when you click on the link, it'll download it, or for Ag in the Classroom and the KDA activities, it'll take you to their website. And so this is a really great resource. It just kind of summarizes everything that we've talked about today, and has all of some of the potential opportunities that you could use in the classroom during Farm to School month. And so we do have one request of you all. If you do end up doing one of these Farm to School presentations during Farm to School month, we would love it if you would fill out our Google form. And this is available on the website. So right here, it'll take you to the Google form. I'll also be sending an email this afternoon to everybody that will have this link. And we're just asking for pretty basic data regarding what schools you went into, how many children you reached, what grades. And then probably the most important piece is in regards to what curriculum you used, and if you have any suggestions or feedback about that curriculum or activity, if you made any adaptations, what went well, what didn't, that kind of thing. And if you're interested in participating with the Kentucky Farm to School Network, we do have an email list, and I put on there that you can add your email to that. And then lastly, just to kind of wrap us up, let me share my screen again. So we also just recently made a Facebook page, and we would love, as you all are going into the classrooms, if you post any pictures, we would love it if you would tag us in that so we can see and share with our network what you all are doing. So you can tag us on Facebook at Kentucky Farm to School Network, or you can also use the hashtag. And please follow us on Facebook. Our handle is KYF2S Network, but you can also just search Kentucky Farm to School Network. And with that, does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? I see people have put their names and counties in the chat, so that's great. All right, well, we're going to end a little bit early. So with that, thank you all for attending. I'm going to be sending a follow-up email this afternoon. If you missed part of the training, it will have a link to the recording so you can go back and watch it. And again, you know, that website that we created has all the resources that we talked about today. So thanks everybody for being here, and we look forward to working with you all in the future. Have a great week.
Thanks, Mackenzie.